Today, I will give you an overview of science and tech, what to expect, and we will start off with technology. Okay, if you don't know yet, science and tech are two distinct but kind of overlapping topics. Okay, so we start with technology, slightly easier. Then we move into science. At the end of it, we're gonna have a quiz to see how much you've understood. And do stay on till the end. I know this sounds like a video promo, okay? Watch till the end. But we are going to share our resources with you at the very end, okay? That's where we will, you get to download the slides, okay? So don't worry about taking screenshots, okay? Just focus on whatever that's on the screen. And then we're going to share with you our booklet as well, the content booklet, which is something that we put together. Jovan and I, we have been working very hard at putting together content for you guys to revise. Okay, I would assume at 12:15 we will have a Q&A, and then after that you will go off for your lunch. Okay, any point you need to leave, okay, don't have to announce, okay, you can just take a leave. I know some of you have some prior arrangements. Okay, something to take note before you begin. Okay, can you guys type a yes if you can see my screen? Now, let's address the most asked question. A lot of students want to know, hey, Chuah, Science and Tech will come out on, okay, Science and Tech. Now, let me give you the answer. I do not know whether it will come out this year, but I can show you the statistics. Okay. And okay. Now, these are all the questions based on topics from, I don't know, which year? Since World War II, okay? 1997. Yeah, not World War II. Let's look at science and tech. How often do we see science and tech questions? Yeah, science. There you are. Science and tech. 1997, 8, 9, 10. Let's look at the recent years. Okay, here you go. It is very common. It is one of the most common types of questions you see. Last year in 2019, we had 2 questions from science and tech that I have added in here. So you can see it is a very important topic. That is also the reason why we have chosen this as the crash course topic. And a lot of you are interested in science and tech for the right reason, okay? Because there are a lot of things they can test. It's also the biggest topic, which is why today there is a lot to be shared with you guys. What some of the science and tech questions you can expect? You will see science and tech questions in mainly a few forms. I've broadly categorized them into a couple of forms. I should just share my screen. Okay, few types here. First one, the nature of science. Okay, how science is like scientific inquiry. Okay, that is kind of like evergreen sort of question. It will not change. Although new information keeps coming in, but you know, it's nothing too new. And science and religion, again, a perennial debate. Okay, a bit about philosophy. Ethical considerations of science and technology is a growing thing, because as we are more and more aware that we can't really stop the progress of technology, people are starting to find ways to mitigate the drawbacks of technology. And one of the main things is the ethical concerns and technological impact. This is a very easy sort of question. Okay, technology, is it good or bad? This is also the kind of question that we will use today to introduce you to technology. And a growing kind of question, cross-topical questions. So when you look at and very specific domains, last year there was a discussion about artificial intelligence. So bloody specific, just AI. And then we have things like agriculture, okay, transplanting animal organs. So those are very, very specific. If you just study science and tech broadly, even then you may not be able to answer these sort of questions, okay? But we'll try our best to cover as many as possible as a starting point, at least for most of you into science and tech, okay? So do take note of this sort of question. This will send to you, don't worry. Okay, let's have a quick look at technology. Today, our question is, man should welcome technology, not fear it. Discuss. Yeah. So take a moment to digest this. All right. This question asks you about the good and bad of technology. Straightforward. Before I dive in, this, okay, pay attention. Okay, if you're going to learn anything important, this is one of the most important things. If you're going to attempt such questions, okay, remember, don't narrow your topic sentence to something as specific as we should welcome technology because it gives us the opportunity to communicate with people all over the planet. That is very narrow because that tells the examiner that you are focusing only on one kind of technology, communication technology. But the question asks you about technology as a whole. So if the question is broad in nature, keep your topic sentences broad. Okay, don't use things like it's convenient, it helps us communicate with one another. Not good topic sentences. Next thing, the examples used by some students can be somewhat limited. What I mean by that, you will see a lot of scripts on science, or I will see a lot of science questions focusing on use of smartphones, because a lot of people think technology is just smartphones. Today, we're gonna help you look beyond just your phones. There are a lot of types of technologies. What are the different areas of technologies? Okay, these are the 6 main areas. You have to memorize this. Okay, main areas: military, environmental, digital, transport, agriculture, medical. As you answer the questions, try to pull in from different sources. Don't limit yourself to just one thing, okay? Or if you study a lot of environment, then you answer science that question, and you start to write a lot about environment, solar panels and all that. No, try to broaden your examples. Of course, increasingly, this is new. Most questions will also touch on some questions. Sometimes questions will touch on other smaller topics, politics and science, okay, business and technology, sports and science, okay, arts and technology. So these areas you have to study as well. Now, what are some reasons we can use for the question earlier? We should welcome, not fear technology. I give you the first topic sentence. What's good about technology? It extends our possibilities. The human body can only do so much. Without telephone, your voice can only travel, I don't know, half a kilometer out. So with telephones, we can speak to people who are further away, okay? So what are some of the examples we can use? Okay, communication technology can transcend geographical boundaries. With smartphones, with the internet, okay, a lot of things are possible right now. If this circuit breaker was to happen 10 years ago, I can assure you, you guys will go crazy, okay, with the absence of entertainment, when you can't really talk to your friends, okay? Yeah, it's a horrible place to be. But today we have Zoom to talk to people all across the world. We have social media applications that allows you to message anyone on the planet, stay in touch. Those are different possibilities you can get. Now, what interests me more recently is this. It came out last year, I believe. The Pope says, you don't worry about being like anywhere in the world. You can now pray online. This is a new thing, new possibilities out there. Okay. This example, I like to use it as a bang, especially when we talk about globalization or even technology, okay? Which brings me to the next point. When you see this tiny little link over here, the blue link, that tells you you can use it for some other topics. We don't want to study one example to use in like many different topics. So pay attention to that blue link there. Now, in the past, if you were to travel in the 1800s, you would travel across the Atlantic from the US, say to England, okay? You take a boat, a ship. That ship would usually take 3 months to reach the other shore. And that's not the worst thing. The worst thing is that most of these ships don't even reach their destination. The Atlantic Ocean is filled with shipwrecks. So it's not a safe journey to take. Today, instead of 3 months, you only need to take a plane, 5 hours, you're at your destination. So that is extending our possibilities. Okay, we can travel faster, longer. Medical tech, one of my favorite will be medical technology. Okay. In the 1900, right before World War I, 1900, the lifespan of the human being, average lifespan, globally was 31 years old. This year I'm 32. I think I have just gotten like 1 year of bonus over there. 31 freaking years old. Can you imagine that? This, like, as we are speaking right now, the lifespan is 73. Human beings across the planet are living twice as long. You're living two lives in one. Isn't that great? In Singapore, the life expectancy is a lot higher. We are at 84 years old the last time I checked. 84. Imagine that. And moving closer to what's happening right now, we are seeing doctors being very worn out by the demands because of the coronavirus infection. But we are using technology in order to help us speed up things, help us do our jobs easier. Okay, we're going to talk about AI, right? Okay, this is where you can use your AI. AI is using past data to predict future data. Doctors are using AI to scan, to have a look at the scans, the X-ray scans, the CT scans of patients' lungs to see whether they're infected or whether they are recovering, you know, those sort of things. So instead of looking at the lungs closely, okay, now the AI can just churn out a number to you in mere seconds. Like, this person is infected, boom. Okay, so doctors can save a lot of time doing their diagnosis. One area that's growing recently is also telemedicine. Telemedicine is calling your doctor, basically, but it's a lot more sophisticated than that, okay? So nowadays, doctors, okay, or even patients, they may not want to go to the clinic if they don't have anything that's particularly urgent. So instead, when they have something mild, they can just tell the doctor, hey, doctor, I'm feeling this, da, da, da. Okay, what is my diagnosis? The doctor will then tell them, this is your diagnosis. I can prescribe the medicine to you. Yeah. So this is a growing area, telemedicine. Not in Singapore yet, but overseas, in the US especially. Those of you who are interested in science, in sports, you might know this person. His name is Eliud Kipchoge. So hard to remember. Not Eliud, it's Eliud. Eliud Kipchoge, okay. Eliud Kipchoge is a marathon runner. He is a farmer from Kenya. He, in 2019, broke the record of marathon. He managed to run a marathon within 2 hours. Okay, in fact, he was just like maybe 1 minute short of 2 hours. A marathon is about 42 kilometers. Okay, you just go and do the math. Okay, you're 2.4. How long is your 2.4? Okay, most of you are like what, 11, 12 minutes. Some of you, what, 25 minutes. That that 2 hour barrier is something that even if you're running at 2.4 speed, right, it's very hard to break. So how did he do it? It's humanly kind of impossible. He used science. Okay, he and his team. Now, first, this event was sponsored by Nike. So Nike actually hired a team of scientists, nutritionists, to look at his carbohydrate intake. They study, they measure his body parameters, his glucose consumption, oxygen consumption, and they will carefully plan his carbohydrate intake before the run and during the run. Okay, people would give him like specific amount of carbohydrate to take at a specific point in time of the race. The racers, there are a lot of pacers as well. Now, when you see birds flying in the sky sometimes, okay, you see them flying in a certain formation, like a V shape, right? They did the same thing, okay? They put themselves in the formation for what? Reduce air resistance. Air resistance, when you're running at high speed in a marathon, can have a lot of impact on the marathoner. So they help to reduce the drag on him so that he could move a bit more smoothly. Okay. And there were pace cars as well to indicate the positions where the pacer should be using laser. That is freaking high tech, if you ask me. Okay, telling them this is where you should be, this is where you should be. And this is my favorite. Using science nowadays, we can figure out the best shoes that can improve your performance. Some of you might be familiar with this pair of shoes. Okay. This is called the Nike Vaporfly 4%. Why do they call it the 4% shoes? It can increase the runner's performance efficiency by 4%. When you're in sports, 1% is a lot, okay? And imagine raising up the efficiency to 4%, that's insane. So he has customized shoes, okay, from Nike that can help him run faster. There's science and technology. So just a brief roundup for this topic centers. Technology can extend our possibilities through ICT, through transportation, Health, increasing our lifespan using AI for coronavirus scanning. And Eliud Kipchoge in sports, how he broke the 2-hour marathon mark. Technology improves welfare as well. That's our second argument. It does. How? Going back to medical. In the past, if you're sick, the doctor can only make some guesses about how sick you are, make some guesses about, I think you have this. Nowadays, we know that there's a lot more that they can do. They can do scans, not just X-ray scan. They can do MRI scan. X-ray is only enough for you to see the bone structure of a human being, but MRI allows the doctor to see the body tissue, the nerves inside, okay, every single detail that's important to their diagnosis. This allows doctors to diagnose a lot more diseases, okay, with a lot higher accuracy. Now, something interesting that you might want to pay attention to, MRI scan and CAT scans, they have a bit of background in space technology. Do you know that NASA, in order to study the moon, they developed some imaging technology, okay, back in the, I believe it was the 70s. Now, this imaging technology to see the surface of the moon, okay, before the landing, was eventually used in MRI and CAT scan. So some people say, should we even fund space research? Because we spend so much money on space, but we don't really see how it's going to benefit us. The truth is, in some cases, space research can benefit life on Earth. Yeah. There's another example over here about the ventricular assist device. Okay, you can go and read up on this. Okay, now, you guys know origami, right? What if I tell you you can do origami on tiny little things? How tiny? On your DNA molecule. These pictures are taken, these are DNA pictures. Yeah, DNA. You can't see DNA with the naked eyes, but we today are able to engineer it, okay, to fold in a certain ways. Why do we want to do that? Okay, when you can manipulate things at a very small scale, you can use it to deliver drugs to certain parts of your body, certain cells. You can even target cells at a molecular level. Okay, like what? Cancer cells. You can kill cancer cells perhaps, okay, using this mini folded DNAs. Okay, think of it like Ant-Man. You guys watch Marvel Avengers, Ant-Man. Okay, and being small has a certain advantage. That's exactly what the DNA folding is doing. Hey, some of you are not very familiar with military technology, so I'll give you a couple of examples. Military tech. If you want to argue good things about military tech, take note. This is a tip for you. There are not a lot of good things about military, okay? But if you want to argue that it is positive, come from the defensive perspective, not the offensive perspective. How do we use military technology to defend ourselves? In Israel is this tiny country surrounded by Arab countries. Now, the Arabs, they hate Israel for political and religious reasons. So they've been trying to kill this tiny country. It's very small, kind of like Singapore. Okay. How does Israel respond to that? Now, every year, okay, Palestine, who's the country surrounding Israel, sends missiles into Israel, trying to kill it. Okay. Israel then responded by building an anti-missile system. Okay, they call it the Iron Dome system that can intercept the missiles mid-air. And when it explodes mid-air, it prevents civilian death on ground. Okay, this system, Iron Dome, very effective. In 2014, by 2014 alone, they have intercepted 1,200 rockets. Okay, imagine the number of people, the number of lives it has saved. Another kind of defense system that's being developed right now by the Europeans. Okay? It can detect the incoming weapons of mass destruction, which could be nuclear warheads. Okay, and it can warn them and send out information to the rest of Europe. Okay, this is also a kind of detection system that's important for our defense. So technology improves our lives. I would say when we want to talk about improving your life, it's very easy to veer into using the phone, how it improves your lives. But okay, try to think of more things like medical, military technology, a bit unconventional ways to argue. How else can technology help us? Technology is a leveler. Everyone is equal right now with technology, okay, to some extent. Think of electric cars. People say electric cars safer and all that. Yeah. Why don't you use electric car differently? What's good about electric cars? There are people who can't maneuver, who can't drive the car because they're disabled for whatever sort of reason, okay? Whether they are quadriplegic, whether they're blind, or they simply don't have hands, okay, to hold the steering wheel. With not electric, self-driving car. With self-driving cars nowadays, we can help these people get from one place to another, okay? This idea of mobility that is severely lacking within the disabled community. This company called Waymo, okay, is developing self-driving cars that are wheelchair friendly. So you can maneuver yourself into the car, tell the car where to go, the car will bring you there, okay? You don't have to rely on another person to get you from one place to another, okay? And this links to your topic on equality. Okay, if you want to use AI, okay, self-driving cars use a lot of AI. So this is where AI will be useful. Okay, this is something that is very relevant to you right now. Okay, recently I read a report in the US. A lot of students are trying to quit their universities and ask their universities for a refund. They say, why do I pay $50,000 for university fees when I can go to Udemy, Coursera, all these cheap or even free, massive open online courses platforms to learn the same thing. And you can even get degrees for that. Okay, I'm not kidding. You can get degrees online on Coursera or even like certain credits that contribute to your degree. So they asked the universities, we want to quit, give us our money back. Here's the thing, okay? This idea of MOOC, this MOOC thing, is gonna revolutionize. It has been doing that, okay? A lot of people are starting to learn online. They're avoiding higher education, okay? Okay, I believe all of you still want to go to uni. Okay, maybe some of you don't want. Okay, don't want, okay? Change your mind already. You can actually take courses online, okay, using MOOCs. That is a sort of leveling. You have no money, don't worry. You can always go on to all these platforms to learn. Now, one of the most promising thing about technology is that it solves our problems. CRISPR. Okay. Let me have a quick look. Let me go to the chat. Can't see the chat. Why? Okay. How many of you have heard of CRISPR? No? Okay. Yes. Awesome. All right. CRISPR, for those of you who may not be familiar with CRISPR, here's the thing. You can engineer, okay. Oh, thank you. Chat at the bottom. Okay. You can engineer your DNA. Your DNA is what changes you. Okay. You have, some of you have, if you have black hair, okay, it's your DNA that tells your body to create black hair. Now, sometimes your body tells your body, your DNA tells your body to do crazy things like, hey, can you make this person like, deform in a certain way because there's certain defect in the DNA. If you can change that, okay, fix the defect, okay, then you can cure the genetic disease. So CRISPR is the thing used to change the code, the DNA blueprint. How do we change that? Okay, we can cut the DNA. You can think of like scissors cutting the DNA, but it's very difficult to cut a DNA because DNA is very small. So to cut it, you need a certain molecular scissors, okay? A very small scissors. CRISPR is that small scissors, okay? It actually relies on using virus, okay? Virus can manipulate your DNA. That is exactly how coronavirus is affecting us, okay? It changes the DNA, okay? So CRISPR can do a lot of things. What are some of the things it can do? CRISPR has been used to change the microbiology in the cow. Now, you eat beef, okay? But do you know that beef actually contributes a lot to global warming? Because cattle, they emit a lot of methane. Methane is a greenhouse gas, and it's one of the the cattle industry is one of the contributing factors for global warming. So in order to mitigate global warming, why don't we change how the cows emit the methane? How do cows emit methane? The bacteria in the guts can cause the production of methane, and the gas will then exit from their burp or from their fart. Okay, farting, cows fart, by the way. That bacteria, you can somehow engineer it to produce less methane. So you can still have your beef, but with a minimal impact on the environment. This links to your questions on environment, which we're going to cover next week. Oh, someone asked me to present full screen. Yeah, let me try it. Can see, right? All right. Now, another thing about CRISPR is been used to genetically modify crops. Now, crops, they suffer from a lot of vulnerabilities. Okay, it can be drought, it can be flooding, it can be the weather. Sometimes crops can die from pests. In Bangladesh, one of the most common dishes in much of South Asia is eggplants. Eggplants, these soft little squishy plants, is very vulnerable to pests. I mean, how difficult is it for an insect to attack eggplants? There's no shell covering it. So there was a whole wave of crop failures in Bangladesh at one point in time. So they were suffering from hunger. That's one, because they didn't have enough food. Secondly, the farmers who grew these eggplants, they were suffering from poverty because they couldn't sell enough. Their crops died. Nowadays, with CRISPR, you can engineer this protein called the Bt protein into the plant. When these bugs eat that plant, the bugs die. But when humans eat this plant, nothing happens. So this thing is poisonous only to plants, this protein, the Bt protein. That gives this plant what we call pest resistance. So genetically modified food, okay, perfect for improving our crop yield. And interesting thing, this is quite recent. Let me drink water first. Have you guys seen Black Mirror? Remember the scene where people started using drone bees to pollinate flowers. These drone bees, very small, okay? They are not actual bees. They only serve one purpose, to pollinate flowers, and they're controlled by the AI. Someone hacked into the AI system, turn these tiny little bees into killer bees. Oh, did I just give the spoiler? Oh, crap. Okay, sorry, if you haven't seen Black Mirror, okay, go and watch it. Similarly, nowadays, people are using drones, okay, not the drone bees, but the actual drone, okay. Oh, sorry. They were using actual drones to pollinate flowers, okay. You can see these drones going around this apple plantation in New York, okay, pollinating the flowers because they are seeing a drop in the yield of their apples because of the death of bees. Bees are slowly going extinct, okay, all across the planet, okay, especially in North America, in the urbanized areas. Okay, so what is the problem here? The problem is our food supply. Okay, no bees, no fruits. So how do we tackle the problems? We replace bees with something else, with drones. Right. Another problem, now in places like Rwanda in Africa, transport system is not very strong. To deliver things that are urgent, especially for medical reasons, right, it's very difficult. Sometimes certain medication doesn't get to the place in time, and it causes people to die, you know. So what is their solution to that? They say, okay, let's not use cars and all that, okay, because the roads are bad. Why don't we just use drones? Okay, nowadays, drones are used to deliver blood for blood transfusion in hospitals, and it contributes to 35% of the delivery methods. So 65% are using other modes of transportation. Drones make up 35%. So if you don't think that drones are being used right now, okay, yeah, have a look at Rwanda. Right. Another problem that we have right now is the emission from cars. You know, because of coronavirus, a lot of countries are in lockdown, and suddenly the roads are clear of cars. And that's a good thing for the environment. In China, in Italy, they're seeing clear blue sky. That hasn't happened in a long time. They are seeing in Singapore last week, the NEA reported a drop in the NO2 levels. NO2 is a pollutant. So cars pollute. How do we address that? Besides not driving, we have to drive. Even after this coronavirus thing, we have to drive. One way is to use electric cars, but electric cars are not economically viable without the use of lithium-ion batteries. You need a place to store electricity. You can't use your regular acid batteries. So we need lithium-ion batteries to do that. In 2019, lithium-ion batteries, by the way, is the same kind of batteries that you use in your phones, in your tablets. They're very common. In 2019, after a long time, the Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded to this group of scientists. I think one of them was a Japanese, for the development of the lithium-ion battery. Yeah, so they've changed the world in great ways. This can be linked to environment questions. Environmentally, after 2011, the Fukushima incident, a lot of countries started saying, maybe we don't want to use nuclear anymore. It's quite dangerous. So one of them was Germany. Germany says, we don't want to use nuclear anymore, but we still need power. How do we generate the power? They have a problem now. Germany is a developed country. Okay, for them to use like oil and gas, it's kind of a slap in the face, right? They say, okay, why don't we do this? Let's try using solar panels and wind turbines instead. So they did that. They installed a lot of solar panels in Germany. If you go to Germany right now, you can see a lot of solar farms and a lot of wind turbines in much of Europe, in fact. It was so successful that on one of the days in 2016, okay, and probably many days after that, the sky was very clear. There was no cloud. It was a summer day, and the wind was blowing. Strong wind was blowing. The country was experiencing so much wind and sun that it managed to generate enough renewable energy to replace all the fossil fuel. Okay? 100% for renewable. So this links to environment, how we use environmental technology to solve our problems. One more problem that we have. Now, if you think, solar panel, everybody's using that. Use something else. This thing called carbon sequestration. Sequestration, quite a mouthful. Learn the spelling. To some of you, this is quite new. Your power plant, okay, that generates your electricity is the main source of carbon dioxide emission. So that contributes to global warming. What if I tell you, instead of putting all the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, we take this carbon dioxide, we put them in a bottle, and then put them somewhere. Okay, I mean, that's kind of like the concept behind it. You trap the carbon dioxide, you stow it away. As long as it doesn't go to the atmosphere, you can burn as much as you want, right? Now, that's exactly what people figure out to do. They take a pipe that connects to the kind of like the chimney, okay, think of it this way, and they channel all that carbon dioxide underground. Now, when you go deep enough underground, you have this impermeable layer. If you inject carbon dioxide beneath this impermeable layer, you can trap the CO2 there forever. So the CO2, there's a very low chance of it escaping back into the atmosphere. So carbon sequestration is changing how we look at climate change. Now we've been talking about we should stop burning, we should stop consuming. Carbon sequestration can decouple your consumption, economic growth, and environmental degradation. Okay, so now you can protect the environment and grow the economy at the same time. Now, what if I tell you you can use AI to tell if a person would behave in a certain way, which is what marketers use all the time, right? That's why you see certain ads. But when this thing is used in the justice system, it gets interesting. Judges do this all the time. They try to figure out which kind of criminals have a higher chance of recidivism. Recidivism is reoffending, going to jail, and then when they come out of jail, right, they offend again, then they go back into jail, which is not good. If judges know that they are going to offend again, they shouldn't even have let them out of jail, right? Now, the judges are human beings, okay? How they make decisions, they have a certain mindset. It's kind of subjective, I would say. But AI has been used to study how judges make decisions, how all the different judges make decisions. Okay? And they have figured out a way to assess, to give a probability of a person reoffending. So next time a judge, before they pass, okay, I will let you out of jail, or no, you will stay in jail, before they offer that, what they do is they can just look at the AI system and say, this person actually has quite a high chance of reoffending. So it can help them make decisions better. In fact, the AI is more accurate than the human being, the human judge. Now, here is a good example, an example of positive use of technology, but it can be negative as well. What if I leave your fate to a machine, to a robot? Okay, it's kind of morally controversial if you ask me. Okay, because how AI makes decision is based on a lot of factors. Some of these factors could be like your family income, your race, your where you grow up, your friends, and all those things. And it can disproportionately punish people from disadvantaged backgrounds. Okay, so technology solves problems. A lot of it, okay, this is a summary. Hey, how do you go a bit faster? So I'll skip some slides here. What's the bad thing about technology? Hacking. Okay, for the past 3 years, okay, there were a lot of hacking incidents. I think the most prominent one is when SingHealth was hacked and the medical data of patients was stolen. One of them includes Lee Hsien Loong. Lee Hsien Loong's medical data has been stolen. It's out there. Okay, I don't know whether you can find it or not. If you can find it, please share it with me. Okay, but don't share it with me. Okay, I shouldn't say this publicly. Now, another another incident of hacking also happened in Singapore. This one you can use it for your AQ. Is when HIV patients, their database got leaked. Okay, now it's supposed to be something very private, but someone, okay, who worked with the medical authorities leaked this data. 14,000 Singaporeans were affected. Okay, so tells you 14,000 patients with HIV. So that's the downside of it. Technology can be abused. Okay. If you are a lady and you are in Saudi Arabia, this is not such a good news for you. In Saudi right now, your husband, your brother, your relatives, men, okay, they have the right to install an app on your phone. It's called the Share app. And this app will control your movement. Okay, rather it will monitor your movement. I think of it as like me tracking where you go, you know. Kind of like this dude over here. A lot of activists, especially female, the gender activists, okay, women's rights activists, they came out and say, this is a violation of human rights, okay, or indeed it is, okay. If I install a tracking app on you, I don't think you're going to be happy. But the worst thing is this: domestic abuse has increased because now men know where their female relatives, their wives are. They can hunt them down if they have ill intention. So domestic abuse cases have risen. Now we go back to military technology. I think you remember this year, one of the aircraft that was departing from Iran got shot down by a surface-to-air missile. It's a Tor M1 missile. This is how technology can be abused. Okay, granted, this was an accident. Okay, they didn't mean to shoot down the passenger aircraft, but they did it anyway. It was an accident. 176 passengers died. So very tragic incident. In 2015, even until nowadays, the Saudi Arabian coalition, which is the Saudi army, they've been dropping bombs on Yemen to fight the rebels. Now, what kind of bombs they drop? They didn't drop like single bomb, boom, okay? They drop what we call cluster munitions. These tiny little bombs, okay? It drops on the ground and it can cause mass damage. You can imagine like a lot of tiny little bombs dropping on you. And what is more dangerous is this: some of these bombs go unexploded. When bombs go unexploded and it gets buried under the sand, what do they become? They become landmines, guys. Okay, if you step on it, boom. And children play with it, boom. Okay. So this is one downside of technology, how it can be abused, military technology. Done. We might think that self-driving cars are safe, but accidents have happened. In 2018, Tesla's car, which is Elon Musk company, one of the autopilot system, okay, in Tesla, basically what you can do is that you can drive your car and then you kind of feel bored, you can just put it on self-driving mode and you lean back and relax, all right? And this is exactly one driver did. Yeah, I shouldn't. Uh, a lot of people do that. One driver did that, and there was a malfunction in the system. The AI system failed to detect certain things, and it crashed, killing the driver. It's not the first time. It's happened a couple of times. So, yeah, it's one downside of technology. And boom, let me close this. Mm. Chatbot. Those of you who are interested in AI, go and check out Chatbot. Now, there's a chatbot called Tay. It was developed by Microsoft, Tay, Tay. Microsoft developed this chatbot to simulate how human beings interact with each other. They put it out on Twitter. So this chatbot started learning how people interact on Twitter. Within less than 24 hours, right? This chatbot turned into a very nasty Twitter user. Okay, it started posting things that are very sexual, racially offensive. It became basically a jerk. Why? Because it was learning from Twitter users. We have also seen chatbots used in this subreddit. This is something interesting for you guys. There's this particular Reddit users, this particular thread on Reddit called the Reddit simulator. There are some chatbots, okay, that are interacting with each other. So this thread, right, is just for chatbots. So you can see these robots talking to each other. What do they do? Okay, they post stupid things like this. Okay. Rescue a stray cat. Things like this. These things may or may not make sense because ultimately they're robots. All they do is just learn from human beings and then try to figure out how human beings talk and respond and then give a appropriate response to that. Hey. If you are a student, this has to do with education. In China, some companies are creating these AI headbands that you can wear it. It's a wearable. It can track how you're paying attention in class. Okay? It probably can give like a number. This person is paying like how many % of attention in class. It's very controversial because now looking at what you do, okay, it's not violating your privacy, but going like into your mind, like getting into your mind, looking at your attention level, that is kind of like a violation of privacy. But it's also putting a lot of stress on the students, okay, knowing that, hey, I have to pay attention because my parents, my teachers, that they know how much attention I'm paying in class. So after a while, after a lot of controversy, they suspended the use of this headband. Okay, I will skip this one. Now, back in the 1960s, before 1970s, so that's when color photography was invented. Before 1970s, photographs were black and white. Okay, my dad has some black and white photos, and this lack of color, okay, people say, hey, why don't we? Some artists say, why don't we color it? Okay, using what we know is supposed to be the color. So they created this again AI, this program that allows these black and white photos to be converted into colored photos. It can be good, right? It's kind of like bringing life to the old photos. Okay, it gives this sense of reality because most of you see the world in colors, not in black and white. And there is also a downside to it. Okay, a lot of critics, they are saying that these people are vandalizing history. That may not be the intended color. It may not even be the real color. Giving a certain picture a color can skew the perception, the reality. Okay, so some unintended consequences of technology. Exploitation. Exploitation, very important. Please take note, okay? Write down, if you're taking a note, write down exploitation. This is one of the most common downsides of, or one of the biggest drawbacks of technology. Exploitation involves one party taking advantage of another. In hepatitis C, this disease, there is no cure in the world. But one company called Gilead, they managed to create a cure, and they have the patent. Having the patent allows them to sell the drug at any price they want. So they decided, hey, no one's selling this. Why don't we sell it at a high price? They charge patients $84,000 per course of the medication. $84,000. That is a lot of money. This is also kind of exploitation. Okay, this is very common in pharmaceutical companies. They will exploit the patients if they can. In another example is insulin. Insulin is an injection that you need for diabetic patients. Now, patients have diabetes, and insulin makers are using this chance to make money off these people. Okay, so sad. And they have been increasing the price of insulin. I have friends who have diabetes. They need insulin injection. Yeah, they complain about it. Like, they keep having to buy insulin. It's not cheap, and the government doesn't necessarily subsidize it. Okay, some of you know Monsanto, right? Monsanto is a company that manufactures seeds. No, not regular seeds, but genetically modified seeds. These seeds, like I showed you, right, they are very useful because they can increase crop yield. But Monsanto and some other companies are also using this chance to make money off farmers. If you grow a plant, the plant bears seeds. You can take that seeds and then grow more plants, right? But that doesn't apply to genetically modified plants. When you grow something, you take their seeds and then you grow it for the next season, it doesn't grow. It's infertile, it's sterile. This technology is called the genetic use restriction technology, GURT. It's quite a mouthful, but you can know it as Terminator seed as well. Terminator, like the movie. So farmers keep having to spend money on buying seeds from these manufacturers. They're already quite poor, right? Especially the farmers in India. So they're being exploited by big companies like this. Okay. Cambridge Analytica, okay, I will not go into details in this. It's a big topic, but if you are interested in politics privacy, okay, go and read up on Cambridge Analytica. It's when Facebook, okay, gathers data of users, and this was illegally or unethically used by another company for political reasons. Okay, some examples from Singapore. This will be useful for your AQ. Yeah, just now I've covered a lot of things, but they're not specific to Singapore. But if you want to look at the technology scene in Singapore, you can look at these couple of examples here that are updated. Okay, let's talk about science. Ooh, science. Science is very similar to technology. They overlap in some ways, but please, whenever you get a question on science, right, I want you to pay a lot closer attention to what examples you're going to bring in. Because science is not technology in many ways. What is science? Science is the discovery of things. Just like I showed you the application of things, how technology is used in real life. Like you can see it, you can see technology everywhere, but you don't necessarily see science or use science, you see. So science is the discovery. Think of like lab experiments, think of theories. Where do they overlap? I'll tell you one quick tip. Technology, just now you learned 6 areas of tech. You have military, you have environment, you have all these 6. Two of the areas are very often closely related to science. That is the area that requires a lot of lab research, which is all that technology to do with life sciences, like what? CRISPR, your genetic modification, right? All that. What else did we cover? Agriculture. Yeah, in agriculture and in medical, we use like genetic modification. That requires a lot of like study into life science. So that's the overlapping part. So CRISPR can apply for both technology and science. That's why you need to know CRISPR. Okay. How do we answer science questions? Look at this question first. Back. Hey, back. How to go back? We place too much faith in science. Comment. What is good about science and what is bad about science? Let's go into that. Good thing about science, science is based on empirical evidence. Remember the word empirical. Okay, underline the word empirical. Don't tell me evidence, because evidence is not good enough. What is empirical evidence? Something that can be replicated. Like, give you some examples. The Bible is evidence that Jesus Christ existed, but it is not an empirical evidence. So EMPI, not PE, EMPI. Okay, because empirical evidence must involve things that can be observed over and over again. Okay? So empirical evidence, in some ways, just think of it as like scientific evidence. Okay. Okay. In you guys know Einstein, okay? When Einstein says something, the whole world listens. He must be right. But the scientific community doesn't think that way. For the scientific community, if it cannot be proven without evidence, it can be dismissed without evidence. So even when someone like Einstein, an authority in science, came up with a theory, people say, no, we're not going to believe you. We will test it. When we find proof, then we will say, okay, you are correct. When before Einstein died, right, he created this theory about gravitational wave. Okay? Gravity is not a force. In school, if you take physics, you think, gravity is a force. Okay? It kind of tugs the planet together like that. But gravity, in fact, is a wave. Okay? It's a wave like light. He came up with this theory before he died, then he died without proving the theory. So people started building laboratories around the world to test for his theory. They created 2 labs in the world that can detect a very mild change in gravity. And about 2 years ago, it happened. There was an explosion a long way from Earth, right? There was an explosion. 2 black holes collided, boom, okay? And the gravitational wave traveled all the way to Earth, and it swept across our planet. That there was evidence that Einstein's theory was correct. So here's the thing, authority has no say. Only evidence has a place in science. That is why we can rely on it. Next thing is about vaccine. You have to know about vaccines, okay? You must know about vaccines. Some of you know who have studied like vaccines, bio, okay? You might know this person called Edward Jenner. He created the first vaccine in the world to tackle this thing called smallpox. Smallpox today is gone from the surface of the planet because of vaccination. So we have him to thank, but also we have people like Bill Gates who funded the eradication of smallpox vaccination. Yeah. Now, there are also some newer kinds of vaccination. HPV. If you are a female, okay, you may need to get a HPV vaccine, okay, in future. Why? Because this virus, human papilloma virus, can cause cervical cancer. So getting HPV vaccine would be important in preventing this kind of cancer. So, now, do you guys know what kind of vaccines you have or not in your body? I bet 80% of you may not know. You guys are vaccinated. I hope you know that. Yeah, you are vaccinated. All of you. It's mandatory in Singapore to be vaccinated. Okay, just a quick look at so the vaccines that you get in Singapore. Tuberculosis, hepatitis, diphtheria, tetanus. So it's a long list. You might think you only have 1 jab or 2 jabs in your life. No, man, you had a lot of jabs in your life. How many jabs? This many jabs. Okay, you have BCG, Hep B, all those things. One of the vaccines cures tetanus, prevents you from getting tetanus. Okay, I want to share with you this thing about tetanus. I grew up not knowing my grandfather because my paternal grandfather, he passed away when my dad was 7 years old. So even my father didn't know his father very, very well. My grandfather, one day, when he was alive, he was walking on the road and he accidentally stepped on a broken piece of nail. A broken piece of nail has a lot of bacteria, and one of the bacteria is contributing factor is Clostridium tetani, I think. The bacteria can cause this disease called tetanus, a very, very painful disease. You get this muscle twitch, you get fever. The muscle spasm sometimes gets so strong, you cannot control it. The spasm gets so strong that your muscle actually breaks the bone. So my grandfather passed away. Yeah. So my dad told me this story like maybe 3 to 4 times before. Yeah, not very frequently, but he always made me think that we are so lucky living in this era. I got a tetanus shot once a jab once when I also got poked by a piece of nail when I was 7 years old. Thankfully, I didn't die from it. I could have died from it if I was born many years ago. So vaccination has really improved our lives a lot. Yeah? Okay, this Marie Curie, okay, this person, gotta know her. Marie Curie, famous for a lot of things. In the booklet, I want you guys please note down Marie Curie as well. Yeah, in the booklet, go and find some information about him. I'll send you guys the booklet later on. She discovered radioactivity, and she was the pioneer, one of the pioneers of X-ray. Without her work in science, we wouldn't know how to see inside the body without cutting it open. Okay, we have to rely on X-ray to see the body in a non-invasive manner. In 2019, scientists did a study, okay, on pigs. They studied the brains, the neuron cells, and they realized that after injecting some synthetic fluid into the pig, they can preserve the neuron cells, the neurons in the pig's brain, okay, for 4 hours after the pig dies. So this gives us some hope that maybe eventually we can not preserve our brain, but rather use this fluid to cure some of the diseases, especially those that deals with our brain cells. Okay. So some two arguments for why science is good. Okay? Science is shorter. Yeah. So here. You guys heard of Pluto? Okay. When I grew up in school, we studied, and Pluto was a planet, part of our solar system. I don't know whether I don't know what you learned in school, right? The last planet today, since 2016, is not Pluto, it's Neptune. Why? Because NASA studied Pluto again, and they saw that, hey, Pluto didn't follow the same orbit as Neptune. In fact, Pluto's orbit intersects with Neptune's orbit. So that makes Pluto not a planet. For almost 80 years, we thought Pluto was a planet. So that's the thing about science, right? They keep changing, okay? Today, they tell you bubble tea is bad. Maybe next time they tell you bubble tea is good, okay? I highly doubt so. But you see, science keeps piling on new evidence, okay? So to some people, it might seem like a sign of unreliability. If I tell you one thing today, the next thing the other day, you might be confused. Okay. Another thing about science, okay, this is also same thing. Science keeps changing, which is good and bad. In the 19th century, note down this word, 19th century, we thought the atom was the smallest. In the 20th century, we knew that the atom wasn't the smallest because we have electrons. You guys take chemistry, you know, electrons the smallest. But if you take history, physics, perhaps you might know this. 21st century, this century, we know the quark is even smaller than an electron. It's the smallest indivisible unit. There may be more in the 22nd century, I don't know. In physics, okay, astrophysics, for example, we always try to figure out what kind of planets exist in our universe, what kind of phenomenon exists in our universe. We used to think that black holes, okay, are small. Okay, they're small if they form from stars. Now, stars, when they collapse, boom, they turn into black holes, which are very small. But then the discovery of one black hole, which was very big near our planet, okay, near Earth, okay, changed that perception that black hole must be of a certain size. Okay, now we know black holes can be a lot bigger than that. Science, the bad thing about science, it can be manipulated. You can change things to your own advantage. So a lot of scientists during a study, they admitted that 2% of them admitted that they have intentionally changed their data to change the results, the scientific results of it. So nowadays, there are so many scientists out there, so many studies out there, it has become an increasing problem because due to this problem of manipulation, okay, even fraud, right? Can we still trust scientific data, even though it's science? Now, the next thing is this person, his name is He Jiankui, gotta know his name. He used CRISPR, the thing that we talked about before, to create a pair of twins who are immune to HIV in China. Now, that had two problems. Number one, should we even engineer babies? Okay, He is the first one to engineer babies. So designer babies, he's the first one. Okay? So it raised ethical concerns. The second problem, the identity of these babies are concealed. So we don't even know if he actually did it. There is a lot of suspicion that his experiments have failed, and that maybe this thing was not even true in the first place. Okay, anti-vax movement is also a result of manipulation. This person called Andrew Wakefield, he created a scientific study. Okay? He studied vaccine, and he said, hey, vaccine can cause autism. Now, his study was false. He manipulated the data, okay, to draw the link between autism and vaccination. That has led to a wave of like anti-vax movement after him. We will talk more about Andrew Wakefield later on. Okay. Science can also be risky. That's the downside of it. How risky is it? This one you gotta know. It's an old example, but people frequently refer to it. It's called the thalidomide disaster. Some of you have heard of it. You know that thalidomide was a drug that was given to pregnant women to help them sleep better and to help them cure their morning sickness. At that time, people didn't really test thalidomide, the scientists, and then they sold it. And after pregnant women took it, right, they gave birth, there was a whole generation of kids who were born perfectly healthy, except that they had tiny little limbs. Okay? It could be tiny hands, tiny legs, or tiny hands and legs. Now, this is a problem because we don't know everything. Now we know thalidomide is dangerous, but back then we don't know. Whatever we don't know can present some risk to us. Okay, you learn chemistry, you might know that it's down to a very small mistake in the mirroring image of the thalidomide compound. So, compound, the molecule. Another example is in France, during the clinical trial of this company called Biotrial, one of the volunteers who took the drug, he died because the drug proved to be too toxic. So he died, and several other volunteers also suffered from permanent brain damage after that. I told you exploitation is important. This also applies to science. How is science exploited? You drink Coca-Cola. Now, do you know that Coca-Cola funds research to show the link between lack of exercise and obesity? Why? They want to downplay. Now, we know how people get fat nowadays is due to lack of exercise and our intake of food, okay? Our maybe energy intake. Coca-Cola funds research, okay, to try to prove that as long as you exercise, you can eat whatever you want. Lack of exercise causes obesity, not the kind of food you take. Why they do that? Because they want the consumers to drink more Coca-Cola, of course, okay, to not shy away from sugary drinks. And okay, coming back to Andrew Wakefield, the person who published the anti-vaccination study. Andrew Wakefield, okay, why did he publish that study that shows the link between autism and vaccination? He was actually funded by a group of people who were suing a vaccination company, okay, rather a group of vaccination manufacturers. So his study was later found to be fraudulent, okay, because he was funded by another company. Now, we now know climate change is real. But for many years, about 30 to 40 years, ExxonMobil, this oil and gas company, kept funding research to show that climate change was not real, that there was no clear link between human activity and climate change. So all these things are down to one thing only. What is it? Money, ladies and gentlemen. It was money-funded research. So if you ever look at questions about money and science, yeah, this is it. In, I think after the Great Depression in 1930s, people wanted to know how syphilis came about. Syphilis is this STD, sexually transmitted disease. At the time, there was no cure for syphilis. And scientists, in order to study syphilis, they needed human subjects. So where did they go? They went to this community full of Black people, and they say, hey, guys, we are doing a study on this, whatever it is. Yeah. And they started exposing them to syphilis. I think it was by injecting syphilis into their body, into this unsuspecting people. And they, at one point, okay, of the study, the cure for syphilis came out. It was penicillin. There was now a cure for syphilis. As a scientist, ethically, you should give the cure to the people, but they didn't. In fact, they tried to prevent the people from knowing that there was a cure out there for syphilis. Okay. That led to a lot of deaths. I think thousands of people in Tuskegee, this place called Tuskegee, died from syphilis. So this is a very unethical experiment in the human history. Another experiment after World War II, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, US got addicted to atomic bomb, nuclear bombs. They say, bombs can end wars. Why don't we build more of it? So that also coincided with a time when the world was in a Cold War. So US started testing. They started testing nuclear bombs. But where? They found this island in the middle of the Pacific, far from everywhere. Most importantly, far from US, right? And they tested nuclear explosives 67 times, close to 70 times. Kept bombing that place for 70 times. Of course, they evacuated the area, but the surrounding islands, right? The inhabitants eventually suffered from radiation diseases, and a lot of them died, okay, from US testing of atomic bombs and nuclear bombs. Okay. Today, we see a very similarly unethical experiment. This luckily didn't happen. Yeah. What happened was, we talk about flattening the curve in the COVID-19, this pandemic. There was also talk about why don't we just let these people get the virus, just infect everyone, and then after that, they will develop natural immunity towards it. This may be true, but it's not substantiated yet. And scientists say, why don't we test it out? The scientists say, okay, we got to test out this theory, right? Whether herd immunity as a method of controlling the disease would work. They pick the country. They say, okay, why don't we choose India? I think there are two reasons why they pick India. Firstly, the scientists were probably not Indians. Okay, of course they'll choose a country that's not theirs. Secondly, they believe that India had a relatively young population who was able to better withstand this disease, because young people, as we know, are less likely to die from the disease. This is very controversial, like using an experiment, using a country to do experiments like this that can result in deaths. But even the thought of it, this entertaining this thought, right, is very unethical. Okay. Luckily, it didn't happen. Okay. Science can be expensive. I think this is the last one. How expensive? This is a Large Hadron Collider. We use it to study subatomic particles like the quarks that I talked about, okay? And to study phenomenon before the Big Bang. All these things have very little application to real life. You cannot really use subatomic particles in our realm, okay? But this Large Hadron Collider, okay, takes up a lot of money. Okay, it's 1 billion a year to run it. A lot of money to run something that doesn't really bring direct benefit to mankind. Second thing, space exploration. I talked about space tech just now. Okay. We talk about MRI. This is the not so good side of it. NASA is spending $2.5 billion sending a Mars rover all the way to Mars to study the surface of it. Right? You see this thing here. The rover costs 2.5 billion, not million, B, which is sometimes the GDP of some very small countries, Yeah. And some of you might recognize this picture. Okay, this picture is the first picture of the black hole. It was taken in 2019. First picture in 2019. And it took $50 million just to take a picture like this. Okay, although it was a big project, but you must admit that this is not you wouldn't think you want to spend 50 million taking a picture like this. And that is the end of our crash course. Okay, if you're interested to find out more, if you find that this crash course is useful, right? Okay, you want to sign up for our environmental or education crash course, I believe you have the link, okay? Or you can easily contact us to sign up for the crash course. Okay. Oh, okay, that is all from us. Yeah. And now you must be wondering, hey, KP, you promised some resources. Okay, I think Jovan will drop the resources. Okay, I can drop the resources here. Let me send you guys the slides. And the booklet. Okay, go download it. And I'll tell you what to do. It's uploading. Okay, never mind. Look at my screen. Okay, now we have our team. We have worked very hard to put together a lot of what we call lazy sheets for you. These are cheat sheets to help you study for science and tech. I only have 1.5 hours with you. I couldn't possibly cover everything. I can only touch on the important things and tell you what to look out for. The rest of it, you have to study. How do you do that? You notice you have a lot of cheat sheets over here for different questions. Okay, we have, I don't know how many questions are there, 10 plus questions over here. Now, reading articles will be useful, but it takes up a lot of time. So what I suggest you guys do, right, is to read essays. Now, the fastest way for you to revise, okay, other than reading essays, is to read cheat sheets like this. Okay, so go and read this. How else do you use it? Before you start studying, go and have a look at the kind of questions that you can expect. Like here. Okay, and some useful quotes for you to use for both your example and to use as your introduction, the hook in your introduction. Okay, those of you with me, you should understand this. And lastly, some bonus at the back. I wouldn't spoil it for you. Go and have a look. Okay, can you guys download the booklet? Give me a yes if you can. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Isa. Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right. I hope this is not the end. Probably will see you guys, some of you next week for environment. Yeah. What is TKDE? Oh, okay. I have to figure out what it means. Uncle don't understand. All right, guys, that's it from me. Thank you for participating. Okay, I enjoy this session a lot. Okay, we'll see you guys on Wednesday next week. Yeah, for those of you who are coming for environment, right? See ya.